Hello, everybody. Back. Back. Yeah. Some of y'all know what those are right there. Oracles, baby. The oracles want to come and play. Let's see what comes up today. I'm not starting with anything in mind. Let's just pull a couple cards and see what do. Okay, so actually the cards are asking for some direction. Give them some direction. So this is going to be twin flame. We are reading about twin flame. What's going on? What's going on, dude? What's going on? Specifically, I'm going to be trying to read for newly awakened twin flame. That is what I'm sensing from this deck. That is what I'm going to try and guide out of this deck. Let's see what pops up, okay? I know, well, that was just straight away judgment, higher stuff. Okay, interesting. Now I need to actually tap in. I actually just forgot to actually just tap into the energy going on. I was a little bit in my head. I'm a little bit in my head for this reading here, but dude, I can't get anything from that card. Am I supposed to pull more cards? Let's pull more. Judgment, creativity, appreciation. Ah, okay. So you want to create something, but you're afraid of judgment. Dude, is that what? But that is this about me? Did what? What just happened, dude? Because I was just talking about not wanting to create these videos because I'm afraid. Um, and I knew this judgment was something there, but clearly we needed the next energy coming to tell us what it was. Okay, so that's kind of clear out there. So it's like, no, no, no. Why are you focused on that, dude? We can rather focus on our appreciation. Okay, so we're judging too quickly. We're judging too harshly, and that's not necessarily saying. That's not necessarily interesting. Okay, so this reading is actually just in general, I suppose. That's just what I'm getting from this. Anyways, let's keep going. New life. Okay, so your new life is on the horizon because you've been going through this process. Once you start creating this process and you start appreciating it, you're then going to enter into your new life. You're then going to remember that this is a whole expansion process. What we need to do is move into the new state of existence that we know we can achieve. That's what we're doing here. We've also got our higher self. So we need to tell our truth. We need to be honest. Okay. This is a very specific one to me, but it's going to resonate with everybody that's on my spiritual level right now as well. The truth is basically saying you need to start very carefully discerning what comes out of your mouth and whether it really is the truth. It's your heart truth or your ego truth. Okay, so that's what you're learning now. For example, when I'm in these videos, I don't want to make these personal readings, right? So so sometimes it feels like, because the reason being is because if I make it a personal reading, it feels like the truth is going to be, it feel, I don't know, there's a stagnancy, there's a fear of the truth. Okay? It's a fear of the truth here, and the higher self is trying to say, stop being so afraid. Do you notice that this is a yellow? The yellow is your solar plexus. It's also your sacral chakra, right? Sacral chakra is orange. Yellow is definitely in there, and yellow is the solar plexus. That's your power. Okay, once your higher self, once you trust, okay, there's truth here, there's connection, the higher realm, and also to other things and other people right now. Okay, epiphany, dude. The first thing I noticed, and I never noticed these at the bottom, but it's the higher self. It's showing up all the time. Okay, higher self, higher self, higher self. Anytime you have threes, that's not a coincidence. At that point, that's a sign. Okay? Yeah, so it's an epiphany. Well, that's basically saying, well, that is the epiphany right there. God served its purpose. And we've got the Holy Spirit, so we need to rest. We can't achieve further epiphanies unless we balance into our life. We put some rest. We might pull balance at some point. I don't know, dude, but we definitely need to put a little bit more rest into our lives. What does rest look like? Well, rest is not meditation. It can be meditation, but rest, if meditation can only really be achieved once you've got control of your mind. But right now, if you're struggling with control of your mind, you might want to rest in other ways. You might want to rest by lying in bed and watching some videos. But then what you want to do within the rest, you want to present moments, like even if it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes for yourself, to actually sit and do nothing. And in that time, that is when epiphanies will happen. You'll also get it in play. You'll also have epiphanies in play as well. But right now, Spirit is saying, go for rest. Okay. Then you've got your restriction coming from your joy guides. Interesting. So it's what the sense I'm getting. It definitely needs a new card, but the sense I'm getting so far is that there's a restrictive force at play when it comes to the rest that you're getting. So the rest is the requirement right now. The rest, the state, like a state of grace period. Okay, so you should give yourself some time to rest, and if you need to rebuild and stuff like that, then this is a good point to do that. Okay, but this is your rest state right now. Okay, so don't, if you're going to make a big decision, make sure that it's a committed decision that's going to be a long-term thing, because that feels like where the restriction. Family. So the family is the thing that's restricting you. So it's community, but it's specifically family. It's saying family. I see a dad. A lot of the times, our family wants us to live a certain life which they wanted for us. And it's not to say that they had envisioned like us following a certain path or something like that, but sometimes they've been hurt in the past, and that makes them say and do stuff. They'll give you bad advice, and that's to them, that's their way of protecting you from experiencing the same thing. Okay, so your family might be giving you advice from a place of heartbreak, and that right now isn't not a very safe place to be giving advice from. So what you need to do now is discern if that is advice that you want to resonate with. I have two cards coming out now. I feel like they're gonna all the divines as well. Divine Mother, Divine Teachers. Yes, definitely. Balance. I told you that we were gonna pull the balance card. You know what? You know what happened? Um, my angels. When I said that we'll probably pull the balance, my angels in my head said, "Yes, you will," and I was like, "I'm not going to say that on camera because I can't be sure." I still have a little bit of doubt in all of this myself. Okay, but whatever. Who cares? But doubt. Who cares, dude? Judgment. Get rid of that judgment right there. Okay, so there's balance coming up. You've been working towards this balance. Okay, this is a balance of karma right now. This is a balance of karma right now. So some of you that are older awakened, you guys are you have served so much freaking karma right now. Okay, I'm not reading this from my own personal life right now. Okay, so don't like. I'm reading this from you guys, from what I'm getting from this, that you guys have been going through. I mean, yes, it is resonating with me as well, obviously. Okay, but what I'm saying is it's not about me. This reading isn't for me, even though it's presenting things that work with me. So I did say in one of my videos, I said that I'm intertwining my energy in here because I'm part of this expansion. Basically, the way this expansion is working is that there's a group of virtually enlightened people who have been enlightened for a few years, and they've met their counterparts or a soul connection or something important. They've met somebody and they've touched somebody, but actually they've touched a whole bunch of people. Basically, they've awakened a lot of people up to the light. Okay, there were a lot of people that didn't really believe in God, didn't believe in karma, stuff like that, and these people proved that wrong because they went through a lot of like turmoil and torture from a lot of people, and they still came out up here. So that showed a lot of people that there is this evolution, and in that, they also met somebody who's actually connected their energy to them. So there's somebody who is following suit as well, and those are the newly awakened. So those are the guys that are, now those can be a counterpart or a twin flame. It can also be like a soulmate or just some sort of soul connection. Okay? There's just some sort of soul bond there, and that's kind of propelling them forward as well. You might be one of those. You might be the newly awakened. You can also obviously be newly awakened from other things. I had my awakening just from reading a freaking book. Okay, cool. balance. Then you've got, actually no, that's a lie. I actually went through a very terrible heartbreak, and and then I read a book, and then it was like, yeah, bro, spirituality, bro. And then I realized that heartbreak was absolute rubbish. Okay, cool. So then you've got your unconditional love. That's basically saying like you should know by now that you are unconditionally loved. Okay? Why? Because you should by now be able to conditionally love yourself at the very least. So even if that means you've got to do something and then praise yourself and feel good for that, at least that's something that you're able to do now. And that applies to everybody. Okay? But it's much more specific to the guys who are newly awakened. Because you guys are just coming out of zombie state. You've spent a life being entrenched mentally into that zombie state of mind. Okay, you didn't know what was going on. That's why they call it the whole Matrix thing. Okay, there's a lot of different references for this stuff. You guys are gonna catch on to this stuff and doing your research and stuff. Want to learn about spirituality? Well, good luck, bro, because it's literally everything and it's just there's a lot to it. A lot of research that you guys can. That's good. That's, so that's the reading. Is there anything else? Yeah, bro. Let's go. Something present. Something wants to present psychic awareness, but it's coming upside down. So you guys are doubting this. So there's definitely some doubt. I thought it was my doubt, but I'm at a state where I just connect. And so if I'm feeling doubt, I know that it's you guys feeling this doubt. So what's happening is that there's absolutely some doubt behind this. And it's very specifically coming from a lot of newly awakened. There are a lot of newly awakened guys who are just propelling forward and they're just like, yeah, psychics exist and stuff like that. But there's a lot of you that are still having to adopt the new ideas and the new understandings of life and what you can have from it, what you can do with it. So you might be doubting this reading, or you might be doubting, there's doubts at play, but you'll notice that with those doubts, as intensely as those doubts, there are also signs. Dude, the balance. And this is probably the third card reading of mine where we've had a crazy thing like that. I mean, this wasn't even that crazy. This was just it could have been a guess. I literally could have guessed. I mean, it's great. It is a little crazy, right? But you know what I mean, right? But we have things that are like so obviously not a guess that it's just easier to break this doubt. So if you stick around, you're gonna start breaking this doubt. Okay, just trust that. Celebration, bro. So we can celebrate now. Okay, why? Because we are starting to trust the process. So we're no longer doubting ourselves. And if I do apply this to me, it's also going to apply to the other guys who are a little older in their awakening. What I've been going through now is that I've been doubting this. I've been doubting this. You'll know in some of my readings, some of my videos, I say I don't really know who my twin flame is. I just know that I feel this connection and I think it's this person. Okay, but I can't be sure. I really can't be sure. And that's because I have this doubt coming in. But the reason this doubt has seeped in again is because there is this connection with somebody who is now waking up and is now experiencing their own doubt. It's being brought to the light, and it's like, oh my goodness, well, how can I believe in all this stuff? They're new to this stuff as well, on top of that. So they're seeing this stuff, and for some of them, for most of them, actually, it's like it's been a long time coming. That's the energy it feels like. It feels like you knew there was something more, and it's been a long time coming. Finally, it's awake, but there's still an element of doubt, and that's you'll notice that that's directly underneath family. That wasn't intentional, but I was actually just about to bring up family, and then I was pointing to showed that. So that's literally saying, well, dude, if you want to get rid of your doubt, you're gonna have to look at what your family's telling you. Okay? If your family's telling you that all of this doesn't exist, but you can see the evidence in the physical realm, always trust the evidence. Don't trust people's words, because um they're people are twisted. Okay, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's not in a negative connotation, but it is in a sense of warning. Be warned. People are twisted in the head because they are damaged. And you know the saying, hurt people hurt people. That's what happens. When they operate out of a space of danger or a space of fear, a space of lack, then what they're doing, any advice they're imparting on you, is from that space, which means the energy that comes with it is of that. It's of lack. It's telling you you can't do this. It's impossible. That all is bullshit. Hey, those words shouldn't even exist, right? The only reason they exist is to create things like doubt. Why? Because you can't have faith if you don't have doubt. That's the reason you have all these polars. And that's a very big statement to say right now, because the exactly what's happening is the whole karmic cycle of the yin yang is coming to terms with each other. So the divine masculine is starting to appreciate the divine feminine, and the divine feminine is starting to understand that she has her worth. And this is not to say that the divine masculine is the man in this role and the divine feminine is the woman. In my personal experience, or in my personal story, I am the divine feminine. I'm the one who had to identify my womanly earth. You know what I mean? Okay, no, what I mean is I had to know that the divine feminine in me needed to know her worth, because the divine masculine in me constantly suppressed her. And you will see this playing out in gender roles as well in society, but that's changing. From 2024 onwards, most certainly gender is going to start becoming a non-conformative thing. Hey, it already isn't in most, you know, developed countries, but I think you know what I mean. Hey, anything more? Anything more? Yup. I was about to say I'm not getting anything, but we've got a few. Okay, so we've then got discipline, but discipline was coming in backwards. So I did respect. So that's fine. So discipline. So it's basically saying if you are disciplined, you'll get what you want. If you're not disciplined, then you need to make sure you are disciplined. But what I wanted to point out is that the discipline is above the new life, below the rest. Remember that this is the yin yang. The rest is the yin energy. Okay, that's the energy that says, hold back, relax. Let's assess the situation. Then once you've assessed the situation and once you have something which you think is worthwhile to present outwardly, that's when you then make the decision and you go and be disciplined in the decision. You commit to the decision you want to make. You follow through regardless of what the feeling is. Okay? I often give personal examples from my own life of these things. And basically what I would do in some of these cases between rest and discipline, rest would show me that things like I'm afraid of people or something like that. That was just that was where it all started. I realized I was afraid of people. Okay. And then you want to get rid of that. And to do that, you need to sit back and identify what makes you afraid of people. But then what I would do is when I run out of juice, basically in my rest, when I run out of juice to think about, I would then have to practice my discipline and I'd have to go into the world, be around people, because I made the decision already that I wanted a new life. I wanted to get rid of this fear. So I was going to do anything it took to get rid of it, dude, and it happened so quickly. You want to know why? Because I pushed to the absolute limit. I would literally be disciplined enough that I would go to I have mentioned this in videos before, but it's the story that resonates with a lot of people, because it shows strength. It shows that we as human beings can have this strength. We just are told that we can't, but we can, dude. You're having a panic attack. You go to a dance floor and you have a panic attack. Have that panic attack. This is gonna sound crazy, dude. I would go to my dance floor. I would freak the frick out. I would have my panic attack. I would obviously always have friends with me at this point, but that's irrelevant. When you're as scared like I was, that doesn't matter. And I know this resonates with a lot of you right now. So the discipline is making the decision and committing no matter what it means you have to face. That's what I was trying to get there from that story. Okay, cool. It wants to stay above those cards. I wanted to move it up, but no, it doesn't want that. Then got partnerships and love, decisions, priorities. Ooh la la. Okay, so the reason this whole expansion process is going on is because exactly as we've talked about, we've got the partnerships coming up. We've got love being presented to certain people. There's people that are newly awakened, that have been newly awakened by past love, past family members. Maybe there was a death and that woke them up to certain things. But we've also got this partnerships is the big thing, because there's this big counterpart energy. Counterpart is like the I don't like the labels and the names. I think that's actually detrimental to relationship status, in my opinion. But because it puts attachment to a connection where there shouldn't be attachment. Okay, that's why I don't like the labels, because you hear a thing like soulmates and you're like, oh, that means that's the only person, and you like, you know what I mean? So this partnerships and love right now, what I'm getting, what I'm feeling is that there is detachment in whatever this partnership is. There's a detachment, there's disconnect right now, and it needs to be there because that process, whatever I just talked about right now, which I've already forgotten about, that's being addressed right now. This detachment process. Okay. Then your priorities is talking about making sure that your priorities are correct. Okay. Remember that you notice how these all surrounded your discipline. Okay. So this is basically looking at the things that you need to start being disciplined. Okay. So partnerships and love, you need to decide. You need to decide what is it you want. Okay. From partnerships and love, we talked about that already. Our priorities is looking at. If we go into the discipline, priorities looking at. You need to direct your life. Okay. You can be disciplined all you want, but you need to decide what to be disciplined about. It needs to channel like this. Priorities came at the top because you can't decide to do something new. You can't decide to manifest something if you don't know what it is that you want. And I'm not saying you got to know exactly what you want. What I'm saying is you got to have a very rough understanding. For example, I'm not chasing to be, at one stage I was chasing to be a YouTuber, right? And I would do anything and I would do a whole bunch of channels and stuff. But now I'm not chasing that anymore because my priorities have changed. So the priorities are basically saying maybe you want to start assessing if there's something different that you want to be doing, and then you need to prioritize that. Okay, prioritize that. So then go into the discipline. Start being disciplined about it. Start doing things regardless. Okay, this reading, it's not scaring me anymore. I'm actually really enjoying myself. I feel very connected. I feel very in tune. But that judgment at the beginning there, that energy scared me a little bit at the beginning, right? But regardless, my priority is to do this. I'm here to deliver healing for people. And if that does impact my life, well, dude, it's been impacting my life my whole life. So I'm just gonna keep doing it, okay? Like it doesn't matter because now it's impacting my life in the best way possible. Everything right is happening right now, and that's what's happening for us. A lot of us that have done this spiritual work right now, we're allowing ourselves to ascend. We are allowing ourselves to ascend. We are not stopped at all. We would be stopping ourselves if we stopped ourselves, but we are not stopping ourselves. Remember what I said. We need to focus on the abundance. We need to focus on the appreciation. Oh no, that was actually a completely different reading. For some reason, that was so clear to me here, like I was in that reading there. Anyway, then we've got your decisions. So the decisions is then, making the decision based on your priorities. So it's basically saying this is the cycle. Okay, so you need to see if you are happy here. This feels like the place of detriment right now. It feels like this is what woke you up. This right here. Okay, the partnerships in love. I'm just trying to do it that you guys can see the card. Okay, but the partnerships in love feels like the trigger. Then and as a result, it started making you reprioritize. It feels like it's reprioritizing, and that reprioritizing is then going to bring up the decisions for yourself because you can now make your own decisions because you're prioritizing based on. So maybe that was the key that was missing. Feels like you were missing something, like there was something that you weren't getting. Feels like it's this. So now you can take this and you can say, well, I want to prioritize this future. So for example, back to my story, I just remembered why I was saying it. Because I no longer am chasing to be a YouTuber. What I am instead doing is working towards just becoming free. So I just have a general rough direction, which I am taking steps to get to in my own crazy loop-de-doo way. But I'm doing that. And I've made the decision to do that. Okay? And that's why I'm doing that. And that's how the new life is going to come. Because you got to make the decision based on this. Use the trigger to then heighten your priorities. Prioritize what you want. Do you want a life of freedom? Do you want a life of stability? Do you want to be able to tell the truth no matter what? Do you want to chase a person? I don't really like the word chase, but in this case, it's what came out. You know what I mean, right? There's something that you guys get to pursue now. So there is definitely an energy of pursuit. There's something that you get to pursue now if you want it, and that pursuit is going to be based on your decisions for yourself through the priorities that you choose. Okay, so you're going to look at your priorities, and if you're honest with yourself, you're going to make the right decisions based on your heart. Okay, notice this. There's a tearing between the two of you. Okay, it looks like that's friends and family and stuff, but actually, what I'm seeing here right now is that you're in the middle between a divide. Okay, you have to make the decisions between this divide. There's a community over there that wants to accept you as you are. You can pretend and keep being that, or you can go ahead and accept this new with the bag of gifts, the bag of truth that's going to come out on that side there. I think the decision's pretty obvious in my opinion. but that's because I've allowed myself to elevate to this point, right? But it took many bad decisions. So I'm not going to blame or be upset at anyone who makes a bad decision. Just know that that's a decision you're making with your own free will, and it's going to be a test that's going to have been failed, okay, which you'll then have to learn in a way. Okay, versus just going with the truth now, making the right decision, going for it. Okay, bias. That's what I am afraid of. I was really trying to identify through these readings what is the fear I was feeling? It's bias. I don't want to present any sort of bias in these readings from my own energy or from anyone on the other side who I know or think I know. You know what I mean? Like I'm aware that there are a few people who watch these videos. Um, so yeah. Boom shaka survival. Yeah, absolutely, dude. So it's very clear why you ended up going the direction you went. You were in your survival mode. Hey guys, this has become so let me just explain what I've just done here. So right now, what I'm reading is the counterpart's energy. So if you are the guys, we're gonna call it the tens. Okay, I don't mean it in like 10 out of 10. What I mean is like they have an energy of 10. When it comes to card reading, if you look at like the decks of numbers, the 10 energy is that who has self mastery and stuff. Okay, they're the ones who've done a lot of spiritual work and have come out all right as a result. Okay. This reading, some of this applied to you guys. You'll know what did. Definitely down here it applied. Okay, but and other things as well, like we talked about new life. It does apply to you, but this also applies a lot more to your counterpart. Okay, so what I've been reading for these past cards over here, all of this over here has been about the counterpart. Okay. The reason it wasn't discernible up until now is because all of these messages were still good. It was still beneficial for both parties to hear, okay? But now what I'm getting here from this card right here is very much counterpart energy. So this is coming from the people who have been in survival mode. They are the ones who have just come out of zombie state. Okay. So they've come out of their zombie state. But by the way, this was also a little bit more counterparty energy here. But again, it's just that this would also benefit those of us who are chasing our new life. Because remember, we're also transitioning. So this lesson still applies to us. Okay, it still applies to us. It's just in a different context. It's not in partnerships and love per se. It's more in, like you might want to look at like partners in crime, or you might want to look at, but in a good way, not an actual crime. Okay, I think you know what I mean. Okay, so this is for your counterpart. This is for those the newly awakened. That's what we can call it. Okay, so we have like the olders and the youngers. No, I don't know how to differentiate. Okay, but the newly awakened, you guys are still you're still new to all of this stuff. You're still new to all of this stuff. You've been in survival mode. It feels like you've had a little bit of a rough time. It feels like your family's trying to protect you, but they keep harming you instead, and that just freaking sucks. And because they're trying to operate out of a place of love, it feels like you don't know what really to do or what to say, how to say it. Well, girl, let me tell you that all you need to do is tell the truth. I learned that, and everything. My life is completely different. Okay, and anybody who will tell you the same, but will tell you the same. Okay. All right. It feels like nothing else is coming up. Dude, this is okay. Loss. Healer guys. Okay, it's time to end. Everything's done. That's loss of the reading. The energy's done. We've completed the cycle. We've learned what we need to do. Okay, that was just like survival just for the last guys. That loss, if I am gonna try and put that loss into this, I mean I know the loss was like a full stop for us in the energy, but if I am going to try and incorporate it here, then what I would say is that the survival might have been based on a loss. Okay, so maybe the family member who was hurt had lost something, or maybe you had lost something and that barricaded you up. Maybe it was a double-edged sword. You lost somebody and a family member lost somebody. Maybe there was consistent loss. Maybe there was patterns of loss. It feels like, if I'm just finishing up, it feels like the energy that you have currently is lacking truth because there's a fear of the truth. Because it feels like, I don't know why exactly. It feels like maybe there was lack of truth in the past, which maybe if there wasn't so much truth, things would have worked out differently. But that's that's then a lesson to realize that the truth is the only way forward, because what would have happened is if the truth didn't come out at that point, it would have just kept getting more and more sour. Okay? Because the truth is the thing that allows you to see if you really are compatible with somebody else, or if you really are made to be with a certain group of people or in a certain situation, okay, part of a certain team, is you are completely honest and you can still, in that honesty, resonate with the people around you. It's the only way that you can exit the survival mode. Okay? Right, guys. So thank you very much. This was a cool freaking reading. I had a good time. I hope y'all had a good time as well. I know y'all are starting to love this freaking spirit stuff. I love it myself as well. Even though as I do this for you guys, the more newly awakens, I definitely feel a lot more doubt. And that's because I need to be doing my rest. Well, this reversed on me. Like, dude, remember to rest, bro. So yes, I need to rest, bro. I've been doing this. I have been diving into this energy. I absolutely am adoring it. I haven't adored anything this much in a long time. I feel channeled. I feel connected. I feel empowered. And I also feel safe. I feel stable. I feel sturdy. And that feels better than anything else in the whole world. So thanks very much for watching this video with me. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.